The son who sold my house for love. The eviction notice was taped to my front door like a death sentence, fluttering in the crisp Ohio autumn wind. It was one of those yellowed legal papers, the kind that smells faintly of ink and bureaucracy, with my name, Margaret Hill, printed in bold, impersonal font right at the top. Notice to vacate premises, it declared, as if my 30 years of mortgage payments, my sweat-soaked summers painting the siding, and my endless winters shoveling the drive meant nothing. Below it, in fine print, it mentioned the new owners, some faceless LLC out of Cleveland, eager to flip the place into a rental for young tech bros commuting to the city. I stood there on the sagging porch steps, my arthritic fingers trembling as I peeled it off. The glue stuck like regret. My name was on the deed, sure, but my son's signature, Evan's elegant, looping E that I'd once praised in elementary school penmanship class, was the one that had sealed the deal. That's when it hit me, sharp as a winter gale off Lake Erie. Love can curdle into betrayal faster than milk left on the counter. And blood? Blood doesn't always run thicker than the ink on a contract. I'm Margaret Hill, 63 years young, or so I tell myself on the days when the mirror doesn't lie too badly. Widow since 2008, when Tom, God rest his stubborn soul, finally lost the fight with that goddamn lung cancer. He was a mill worker, the kind of man who fixed leaky faucets with duct tape and a prayer, who grilled burgers in the backyard even when the rain turned them to mush. This house in Willow Creek, Ohio, wasn't just 4 walls and a leaky roof. It was birthdays with lopsided cakes from the corner bakery. It was Tom's last breath in the upstairs bedroom, the one where the window overlooks the maple tree we planted the day Evan came home from the hospital. It was my safety net, the one thing I owned outright after scraping by on waitress tips and Tom's pension checks. Evan was all I had left after Tom, my boy. 28 now, with his father's dark hair and my blue eyes, the ones that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He was charming, the sort who could talk his way out of a parking ticket or into a job he wasn't qualified for. He'd majored in business at Ohio State, walked across that stage with a grin wide enough to light up the Horseshoe Stadium, but jobs were scarce after the recession, and he'd bounced from sales gigs to startups that fizzled like cheap fireworks. Then came Lena. Oh, Lena Vasquez, with her honey blonde highlights and yoga-toned arms, the kind of woman who turned heads at the Willow Creek Diner, where I still poured coffee on weekends. She was 25, fresh out of community college with a real estate license and dreams bigger than the Grand Canyon. They met at a networking event in Columbus, Evan schmoozing for leads, Lena handing out glossy flyers for luxury condos downtown. She smiled sweetly, all perfect teeth and designer perfumes that smelled like money I couldn't afford. But I saw it early, the way her eyes flicked over my faded cardigan, appraising, counting, money, status, control. That's what Lena tallied like beads on an abacus. At first, I loved her for him. "She's got fire, Mom," Evan said over pot roast one Sunday, his hand tangled in hers across the Formica table. They were inseparable after that, weekends antiquing in Yellow Springs, brunches at that overpriced cafe in Dayton, where the avocado toast cost more than my weekly grocery run. Lena talked big, flipping houses, investing in crypto, jetting off to Paris for the fashion week she'd seen on Instagram. Evan lapped it up, his eyes starry like a kid unwrapping Christmas presents. I didn't mind the changes at first. The house felt alive again with their laughter echoing down the hall. Lena even helped with the garden, planting tulips that bloomed blood red come spring. But cracks showed. She'd sigh at my quaint decor, the crocheted doilies Tom hated but I adored, and nudge Evan toward upgrading his life. "Babe, we deserve more than scraping by," she'd whisper, loud enough for me to hear from the kitchen. And Evan, my sweet, conflicted boy, would nod, his jaw tight. It started small. A loan from my savings for their first trip to Chicago. Eiffels be damned. Lena wanted the Windy City skyline. I handed over the check, $2,000 from Tom's life insurance, telling myself it was for love. Then came the engagement ring, a sparkler that could blind a hawk, bought on credit that Evan swore he'd pay off. "Just trust me, Mom," he said one night over lukewarm tea in the living room, his eyes darting to the floorboards like they held secrets. I did trust him. Why wouldn't I? He was my son. But trust is a fragile thing, like the china teacup Tom gave me on our anniversary, shattered now in the cupboard from a careless drop. Behind my back, while I was pulling doubles at the diner, Evan dug up an old power of attorney document. I'd signed it years ago after Tom's diagnosis, in case I couldn't handle the bills during his chemo. It was yellowed, outdated, the dates smudged like forgotten sins. Lena, with her real estate savvy, cleaned it up. Her words later, in court transcripts, forged the renewal stamp, backdated the notary. The sale went through on a Tuesday in September, while I was wiping down booths sticky with maple syrup. $280,000, more than I'd dreamed in this economy, enough for a down payment on that luxury condo in short North Columbus with its exposed brick and skyline views. Designer bags for Lena, Chanel, Gucci, the works, stacked like trophies in their walk-in closet. And the condo? Marble counters, a rooftop deck for networking parties with influencers Lena swore would make them millionaires. I found out the next morning. The mailman handed me the closing statement, mixed in with bills and junk flyers for Black Friday sales. My hands shook as I read it in the driveway, the gravel crunching under my slippers. Sold to Hilltop Investments, LLC. Closing date, last week. My signature? Nowhere. Evans, bold as brass at the bottom. The world tilted. I drove to Evans' new place, that gleaming tower off High Street, my old station wagon coughing like it knew betrayal when it smelled it. The doorman buzzed me up, pity in his eyes. Word travels fast in real estate circles. They were in the kitchen, Lena in silk pajamas sipping a green smoothie, Evans scrolling Zillow on his laptop. Evans startled, nearly spilling his coffee. "What are you?" I slapped the papers on the quartz island. Lena's smile faltered, but she recovered quick, tilting her head like a concerned therapist. "Mrs. Hill, sit down." My voice cracked, but I held firm. "You sold my house, my home." Evan's face drained of color. He glanced at Lena, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Mom, it's not what you think. We needed the capital. For the business. Lena's got this flip in German Village, huge potential. And you're old. You don't need a whole house rattling around in. One-bedroom condo downtown close to the diner. Practical." The word hung there, cold as the marble under my palms. Old? I'm 63, Evan. Not dead. And that house, it's not some asset on a spreadsheet. It's where your father died holding my hand. Where you took your first steps. You used my power of attorney? He shifted, avoiding my eyes. Lena handled the details. It was all above board. The laugh bubbled up, bitter as black coffee. Lena stepped in, her voice smooth as oil. "Margaret, think about it. Evan's building something here. Legacy. Proud?" I wanted to laugh again, or scream, or hurl that damn smoothie across the room. Instead, I grabbed my keys. "Keep your legacy." "So an idiot." I slept in my car that night, parked in the diner's lot under the sodium lights that buzzed like angry hornets. The seats reclined just enough, but the chill seeped through and my hip throbbed from the damp. I didn't cry. Not then. Crying was for when the pain was fresh. This was a wound cauterized by rage. Evan texted apologies. "Mom, please, let's talk." But I let them stack up unread, a digital pile of excuses. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving. I drove back to the house, still mine for now, and sat on the porch swing, the one Tom built from scrap lumber. Squirrels chattered in the oaks, oblivious. That's when the fight ignited in me. Evan forgot one thing about his mother. I didn't raise a quitter. Tom used to say I had steel in my spine and fire in my belly, forged from growing up in a holler in West Virginia, where coal dust choked the air and dreams died young. I'd clawed my way to this life. Night school for my associates, double shifts to fund Evan's braces and college books. No way was I letting some gold digger and her enabler son strip it away. By noon, I was in the office of Harlan Whitaker, the town lawyer who'd handled Tom's will. Harlan was pushing 70, with a paunch and a comb-over that defied gravity, but his mind was sharp as a tack. We pored over it. The power of attorney, dated 2013 but stamped 2024, no witness signatures where required. The title transfer rushed, with discrepancies in the notary seal, Lena's cousin, it turned out, moonlighting for cash. "Fraud," Harlan muttered, scribbling notes. "Elder financial abuse, too. Ohio law's got teeth on this. We can void the sale. Sue for damages." My voice was steady, but my checking account wasn't. He quoted $5,000 retainer. I swallowed hard. half my savings, the emergency fund for the roof repair I'd been delaying, but what was money without a home? The next 2 weeks blurred into a whirlwind of depositions and discovery. I stayed in the house, defying the eviction timeline with Harlan's stay of execution filing. Neighbors whispered, old Mrs. Evan called daily, voicemails laced with desperation. Mom, Lena says it's a misunderstanding. Nice. As if a house was a handbag, I blocked his number after the 10th plea. Lena, meanwhile, played the ice queen. She emailed once. All legalese from a template. Cease harassment. Harlan laughed when I showed him. Bluffing, he said. And sweat she did. Subpoenas flew. Bank records showing the proceeds funneled straight to the condo down payment. Paris flights charged to a joint card. Evan's business evaporated under scrutiny. No flips, just Instagram posts and a vague consulting LLC that hadn't filed taxes. She lawyered up quick. Some hotshot from Columbus with billable hours that could choke a horse. I threw myself into the fight like it was the last war I'd ever wage. Afternoons at Harlan's, combing affidavits, evenings at the diner, where the regulars formed a Greek chorus of outrage. That Lena's a viper, grumbled Joe the trucker, slipping me a 50. M sharp. I packed a single duffel, photo albums, Tom's old watch, my mother's rosary, just in case. The sheriff's cruiser pulled up at 8:45, lights off but authoritative as hell. Deputy Ramirez, a kid with a mustache like a broom bristle, tipped his hat. Mrs. Hill? Behind him, a black SUV disgorged the new owners, 2 suits from the LLC, clipboards in hand, already eyeing the curb appeal for their rental ad, and then, improbably, Evan. He stepped out of a rideshare, rumpled in chinos and a button-down, Lena nowhere in sight. His smile was forced, salesman bright. Mom! Help, the gall. I crossed my arms, the chill wind whipping my scarf. Move? The suits exchanged glances. Ma'am, the paperwork's clear. Ramirez held up a hand, radio crackling. He listened, then frowned. Minutes stretched like taffy. Evan's smile cracked. He shifted foot to foot, glancing at his phone. Finally, Ramirez turned. Change of plans. Courts ruled. Sales voided. The suits sputtered. Calls to lawyers. Mutters about countersuits. Evan went white as the porch paint. What? No, that's impossible. Harlan pulled up then, his ancient Buick wheezing to a stop. He handed Ramirez the order, crisp as new money. Judge Patel's signature, effective immediately. Mrs. Hill retains title. Perpetrators. The word landed like a gavel. The suits retreated, tires squealing. Evan staggered forward, eyes wild. Mom, wait! This is Lena's fault. She pushed me. I looked at him, really looked. The boy who'd built forts in the basement, now a man hollowed by his own choices. You signed it, Evan. You cashed the check. For love? He sank to the steps, head in hands. The wind picked up, scattering leaves like confetti at a funeral. I thought we were building something. She said you'd understand. Temporary, like my grief for Tom, or the scars on my heart from raising him alone. I knelt, stiff knees protesting, and lifted his chin. Love doesn't evict, son. It builds. Sirens wailed distant. Backup for the suits, maybe, or just city noise. Harlan clapped my shoulder. I'll handle the rest. Restitution hearing next month. The buyers sued, of course. Hilltop LLC dragged Evan and Lena through the ringer, claiming misrepresentation. Lena vanished the same week his accounts froze. Poof, like a bad magic trick. Rumor had it she shacked up with a developer in Miami, leaving Evan to fend off process servers in his emptying condo. He showed up at my door that night, unannounced, hollow-eyed and unshaven. Rain slicked his hair, pooling on the welcome mat. Mom, please. I opened the door just a crack, chain rattling like judgment. The house smelled of fresh coffee and the apple pie baking, Rita's recipe, comfort in crumbs. You sold my house for love, Evan. His sob broke, raw and childlike. I'm sorry. I paused, heart twisting. Blood did pull, after all, thicker than ink, warmer than steel. But forgiveness? That was earned, brick by brick. Crash on the couch tonight. Tomorrow you start making it right. Call Harlan. He nodded, collapsing inside like a puppet with cut strings. I locked the door behind him, leaning against it as his breathing evened in the living room. The eviction notice? Shredded and scattered to the wind. The house stood firm, roots deep in Ohio clay. In the weeks that followed, Evan unraveled. The restitution hearing was a circus. Lena deposed via Zoom from a beachy backdrop, her tan lines mocking the courtroom's fluorescent pallor. She claimed ignorance. Evan handled the docs, but the judge wasn't buying. He ordered her to cough up half the proceeds, plus fines. The condo went into foreclosure. He moved back home, sleeping in his old room with the faded OSU posters. It wasn't easy. Mornings, he'd wake with nightmares, muttering about signatures and stamps. I'd find him at the kitchen table at dawn, staring at Tom's old toolbox like it held answers. Lena's ghost haunted us. Texts from burner numbers, pleading for bailouts he ignored. One night, drunk on cheap whiskey, he confessed, "She made me feel alive, Mom. Big." I poured him water, steady as the maple out back. I tapped the table, scarred from years of family dinners. Slowly, he rebuilt. Community service turned into a gig, tutoring elders on smartphones, his charm winning them over. He enrolled in night classes at the tech center, certifications in ethical real estate. No more get-rich-quick, just steady, like Tom's mill shifts. The house? We fixed it together. New roof shingles under summer sun, paint that gleamed white as hope. Neighbors forgave. Casseroles resumed, now with Evan's awkward thanks. Lena resurfaced once. A certified letter from Florida. "I miss you." Evan burned it in the fire pit, ashes swirling like old sins. A year on, eviction anniversary, we sat on the porch swing. Leaves turned gold, the air crisp with promise. "Thanks, Mom," he said, voice thick. I squeezed his hand, calloused now from honest work. "Blood's blood, Evan, but loyalty?" The maple whispered agreement, roots entwined deep. And in that small Ohio home, betrayal mended into something stronger. Not just walls, but a legacy of second chances.